Been doing a little work on the project truck lately. Pretty cool day here in central Iowa. Been cool the last few days. It was spitting rain here just a little bit ago. Actually snowed a couple days ago, just a little bit of snow in the air, nothing on the ground. But winter is coming. One other thing I'm gonna mention real quick, I went down and picked me up a thermostat for my heater. Picked this thing up. Works just like a house thermostat, except you can plug a cord into it. And then I have that cord, goes down here, back all the way around behind here, and runs my heater. If you remember, towards the end of last winter, the thermostat that I had, it crapped out on me. It was just a metal box with a metal coil, and it took that thing a long time to acclimate to temperature. This thing, however, responds real quick. You can program it for different days, which is something I don't really need. But it does keep it a more constant temperature in here. The only downside to it, it does tend to make the heater kick on and off more frequently, but there's also an off switch on the thermostat where I can just turn it off. Also got a package at the P.O. box. I got this, I think, about a week ago. Just hadn't been able to get down there to get it. So we're gonna start this video off with a little mail time, if I can find a knife. This comes from, on the label anyway, it says Lisa Hummel. Let's see what's in here. Some empty grocery sacks. And they sent me a new vacuum can. This one looks like it is in amazing shape. I already snagged one out of the salvage yard and put it on the truck. However, I'm going to hang on to this one just in case I need another one. Also sent, oh this is nice, sent a Arizona license plate from 2012, and check that out. The Ford agriculture plate. That's pretty cool. An FFA sponsored plate, I guess, or the money that you spend on these plates must go to the FFA, something like that. That's a pretty cool plate. For sure, going up on the wall. I don't know if there's a note or anything in here. I don't see one. Well, I didn't find a note anywhere, but sent me a new vacuum can and a pretty cool plate. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is going up on the wall. This will be going, I need to start like a parts shelf or something. So like I said, I've been doing a little bit of work on the project truck last night. I pulled the rear differential cover off and drained out the fluid. And you should see this fluid. It doesn't look real good. Let's see if I can just pull this one out of here. Doesn't look real good. Pretty brown. Actually, it looks darker now than it did when I first drained it. I don't know why. It looked about like chocolate milk. And I went to the parts store this morning and picked up some things. One of the things I picked up was gear oil. Also picked up a gasket for the rear differential cover. I know a lot of people just use either black or I got blue RTV to seal up the rear differential cover. I got a gasket for it. I don't know, that's just the way I do it. So I'm gonna get the cover back on the rear differential and also put new fluid in it. And in my previous videos, I think I have mentioned the speedometer would bounce just a little bit. Not real bad, but just a little bit. You could tell when you're accelerating or whatever that it would just kind of jerk around every once in a while. Well, I pulled the speed sensor out of the rear differential. This sits up on top of your rear differential. There's one bolt that holds it in. I think it's right here. It just goes in. This goes in like that. That's all there is to it. Take that bolt out, pull this out. Also disconnect the wiring. I've already removed it one time before and cleaned it all up, stuck it back in, didn't seem to make any difference. So I got a new one of those this morning. I'll be doing that too. Also got a few other things that I'll be getting to shortly. So I got the rear cover all cleaned up on the inside, and then I threw some paint on the outside. Not real good. I was running out of paint, and that cover is just not in the greatest shape to begin with. And then I got all the gasket taken off of the rear differential and cleaned out and everything. While I'm waiting for some things to dry, I think I'm going to go ahead. And install this speed sensor. Which, there's the old one, there's a new one. Looks like the same part to me. So I'm going to go ahead, stick this in the differential and bolt it in. And maybe then I can get that cover on and actually get some fluid back in there, move on to other things. And the easiest way I found to get to this, might help if I had it in my hand. And the easiest way I found to get to this is on the driver's side. You have to get under the truck in front of the rear tire. And it's a little awkward, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this very good at all. If I can get my light to work. There we go. But it's under here. It's on top. It's kind of on the top front of the rear differential. The hole for it is right there. All you do is stick that sensor down in there. The bolt goes in the back there, and then plug it in. I've done that a couple of times before, and what I found out is when you go to put the speed sensor in, it'll go down into the hole, but it'll act like it just doesn't want to go all the way down. Just tighten that bolt up and it'll pull it on down in there. Now I know some people, when they put a rear differential cover on, they'll just use some RTV, go around it. They won't use the gasket. I could go either way. I got a gasket for this one, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this on the cover, basically just to hold the gasket in place so I can slap it up there and not have it slide around. Stick the gasket on there real quick. And then I'm going to go put it on the truck. So I just took the truck out for a little test run, and the darn thing, that speed sensor, the speedometer is acting up more now than it did before. Up to about 40 miles an hour, nice and steady, smooth as could be. You get up above that, the darn thing would jump quite a bit. I don't know what's up with that. Could be a wiring issue. It could be I need a new cluster. Being that the tachometer also acts up, may need a new cluster, which I just recently sold a cluster for this year truck. Would have been perfect to swap in and try out. I'm going to go ahead and replace a few more parts. So I may need to get a new cluster. I might be able to go do that tomorrow. But I do have some other parts I'm wanting to put on the truck. One of which is I have a new oil sending unit. Not a big deal, not going to help how it runs, but it will hopefully make the gauge on the dash at least pop over into the normal. The gauge doesn't work at all, and the truck's still running, so I assume I have oil pressure. Another thing I got is this little guy here, and this is your coolant temperature sensor. Don't know if it's bad or not, but if this is out of range or not functioning properly, that can affect how things operate. Stick a new one of those in. And then one other thing that I picked up is I got a new throttle positioning sensor. Don't know if this is bad. Really wasn't suspecting this, which probably means it's it. But another guy on OBS Revolution was having the same, almost identical problem with his truck, or his son's truck, and he put a new throttle positioning sensor on it, and it pretty much fixed it. So the first thing I'm going to replace is the coolant sensor, which is right on top of the thermostat housing. If you can see where my light is, it's right up on top of there. Basically just need to remove these hoses to get to it, unplug it, unscrew it, screw a new one in, plug it back in, you're done. Now I know there are probably going to be a few people that get on my case about just throwing parts at this truck, and to be honest with you, I don't like just throwing parts at it, but I don't really know what else to do at this point. These are all things that after 20 22 years, probably need replaced anyway. So it's certainly not going to hurt anything. Is it going to fix anything? We'll find out. It still very well could be the torque converter. I'm hoping it's not, but it very well could be. And if that's the case, then I guess at some point here, come off of there, we'll be putting a new torque converter in. So we'll just get this connector off of here, the electrical connector. And I'm not sure what size socket that's going to take, but we'll get that unscrewed, put the new one in, done. The 1-inch socket fits over, it'll fit over the electrical connector, and take it right out of there. And there you have it, the old temperature sensor, still steaming hot. So we'll take the new sensor, screw it in, plug it in, that's all she wrote. And my heater's just about ready to turn on. I just had the truck running, and I tell you, this shaky vibration that it has, it's getting better. I don't think it's anything that I have done, I don't think. Maybe it's all kind of adding up, I don't know. Maybe it's just that the truck has been running and basically been sitting for 5 years, but it's not as bad as it was. I'm going to get under the truck and put in this new oil sending unit switch. Not going to be able to show where it goes really. It's pretty cramped under there where it is, but it's not hard to find. It takes you can use just a regular 1 1/16 socket, but this is one that's made for taking these out. It's got, if you see where the corners usually are, it's a little different shaped, and this socket is made to fit those. Just fits on. I don't know why they do it that way, but they do. But a regular 1 1/16 socket, I think that's the right size, will actually fit. What size is this? This is an 1 1/16. And a regular 1 1/16 socket will work too. The actual location where that switch is, I don't think I can really show you, but if you see where the oil filter is, it's just to the left of that and on back just a little bit. Not in the most convenient location, but it's not too hard to get to either. Might need an extension or something. I'm going to swap that out and that will be done momentarily. Well, I got that sending unit in and that was not fun. Took a while. Can't get your hand in there. This truck has an oil cooler on it. Maybe I can show you where the filter is screwed into. You can't really see it, but there's 2 lines that come off of that piece that go to the front of the truck. And just to the left of that is where you've got to stick your hand in there. Anyway, could not get my hand in there, and this socket was actually too long. It would hit a little bracket in there that holds that piece that the oil filter screws into. So that was too long. I ended up using, I tried several different sockets. I ended up using this socket, which, if you take the sending unit, it had to go in like that, which looks great, except the little stem of it sticks up to where you need to put your extension stay, and so you can't get that in there. I could get it in about like that, but it was just a tricky ordeal. Got that one out, and I had a heck of a time getting the new one in. To get the new one in, this wouldn't work because it would just fall apart. I couldn't get my hand in there to start screwing it in. So what I did is took this old spark plug boot, cut the wire off of it, and took the sending unit, put that stem inside there, and then I taped it all together, and I could get this in there, and this is bendable enough and everything where I could get it started. Then I could use that socket and extension, got it all tightened up. Let's fire the truck up. Hopefully it's going to activate the oil pressure gauge. Got that bright light out there, probably makes it a little difficult. Yeah, what do you know, the gauge actually works. The gauges in these trucks, it isn't actually a gauge. For those of you that don't know, it's no better than an idiot light. That's a switch, it's either on or off. All that gauge is doing is showing you whether you have oil pressure or not. It doesn't fluctuate up and down like in some vehicles. It's just a switch. I believe it takes 5 or 7 psi of oil pressure to activate the switch to make your gauge pop up into normal, but that's all it is. It's an idiot gauge. So now, to tackle the throttle positioning sensor, which on these trucks, the throttle positioning sensor is right down there on the bottom of the throttle body. So basically you have to take the throttle body off to change out the throttle positioning sensor. Not really too difficult to do, a little time consuming, not bad. So I think I have everything unhooked. I popped these cables off, electrical connection for the idle control valve, both coolant lines, which I think you can do this without removing the coolant lines, but it just makes it easier. They're not hard to take off. Let's see, I disconnected the throttle positioning sensor connection. I think it should come out of there now. There we go. So here's the throttle body, and you can see on the back of the plates here, pretty, has a lot of carbon. I'm going to get that all cleaned up, clean all this out, and swap the throttle positioning sensor out. So I took it out for another drive, and it's getting better. I went maybe 5 or 10 miles, and it's getting better. I don't know if it's something I did or coincidence or what, but the vibration is from just off idle up to about 1500 RPM. I think I need to drive the thing and see if it works itself out of it. But at least we got some new sensors on here that probably needed to be replaced. And we got the oil gauge working. So what all have I done to this truck so far? Let's go over this. One of the first things I did is I replaced the U-joints on the rear drive shaft. I did put a new idle air control valve, well, a used idle air control valve on it. And that seems to be functioning okay now. Put a new soup can in it, the vacuum reservoir. Also had a charging problem. There's a broken green wire, it's underneath there somewhere. Fixed that. Today we did the throttle positioning sensor, the coolant sensor, which that's the coolant sensor for the computer. There's another sensor which is up over here. I think it's right down in there. Looks a lot like the oil sending unit, for it drives the temperature gauge on the dash. New oil sending unit. Let's see, we got new spark plugs, new plug wires, new cap and rotor on the distributor, new door handle. All of these solenoids back in here, they've been replaced. Air temperature sensor down here, it was replaced. Ran a bunch of seafoam through it. New master cylinder. Swapped out the wheels and tires for the ones that used to be on the flare side. Last night I took this vent visor thing off. Still has a little bit of gooiness, little line of it right there, but I'm not too concerned about it. About the shiniest place on the truck right now. Seems like I've done more to it than that, and there's probably 1 or 2 things I've forgotten along the way, but that pretty much covers it, I think. Been texting back and forth with Kyle and James over at Central Oregon Shenanigans. If you aren't familiar with their channel, you should go check it out. They just picked up a Ranger that they're going to be doing some things too. Finally got their 4BT Expedition running, and you just never know what you might see over there. I'll link their channel down below. If you like it, stick around and subscribe. They always have something going on. Pretty good couple of characters there. So I'm really wanting to get this truck running near perfect before I start digging into doing body work and that kind of thing. I think no matter what it is, even if it is a torque converter, that's not that big of a deal. So I'm starting to think maybe, but I'm gonna get this truck all buttoned up and I'm gonna pull it outside, bring my green truck back in here, and then I'm probably gonna go edit this video. So give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. Go check out Central Oregon Shenanigans, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.